Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you um, how to create a stack in Swift um, and also how to create classes, and actually classes will come before stacks. Um, go ahead and create a console application, just call it I don't know, stacks. Let's directly dive in our main.swift. Create So now I'm going to show you how to create classes. So what classes are is a series of methods and um, data types that can be grouped in all in one place and let you create new objects. So um, so that you can create uh, your own containers for what you need. Um, so to create a class, you just um, go ahead and create a sample class. So let me see what I could create. Let's say I want to create a person. And obviously Swift doesn't have a person type. Um, so let's say you needed a person because, I don't know, you were storing a bunch of people in this, I don't know, social network app. You could create a person class. And that is how you create a class. Um, and you can have different types inside. So you could create a name. You could create age. You could create a gender. And to initialize the class, you just use the init keyword and pass in these parameters separated by a comma. Now you can say self.name is equal to name, self.age is equal to age, self.gender is equal to gender. So now what you can do is you can create a new person class. You can directly create it like it was an integer or a dictionary or anything. So you can say John is equal to person with a name of John, age 45, gender male. Then you could have Mary. She's 34. Is a female for gender. And so we could now, for example, print them. So now if we run the program, see, we get John, 45, male, Mary, 34, female. And these classes are very useful in case you want more data types in one structure, but there is no default structure from Apple that can't allow you to do that. You just make your own. So that is just a little intro to classes. There is a lot more to them. For example, you can create functions, but I want to dive into what stacks are in this video. So first of all, I'm going to show you what a stack is conceptually. So a stack is, how its name suggests, it's a pile, pretty much a pile. You can imagine it as a pile. So you could have a stack with 4, 5, 2, 9, 8, and you would only be able to access the last item, and you would put items, you would insert items at the top every time. Its underlying structure is a vector, and they can be useful in a variety of applications. For example, if you make certain, priority for an app that has items things that happen first as opposed to last, and you can prioritize them this way. But Apple doesn't have a default stack, so we have to create one. So just go on File, New, File, make just an empty Swift file, and just call it stack. So now I used an integer example in this class, but you want to be able to put anything in the class. Otherwise, just integers is not very practical. And if you just put one data type, you would have to change it every time you want a different one. So what we use is a general template. So what Swift allows you to do is have general data types, code with general data types. So you can have a class that accepts not only an int, but it accepts a char, it accepts a struct, it accepts integer, it accepts doubles, it accepts any data type you throw at it. So those are called templates. They're general types. So just create a class, call it stack, and open and close brackets. But now instead we're going to tell it that it needs a template. So just add the t, angle brackets t, and that will tell it, hey, I need a general type. So we're going to have an array of those types. So let's just call it container. And make it an array of t-values. Now let's just create an initializer and set container equal to just initialize container. So now what we can do is create functions to allow us to push an item, access an item, delete an item, and so on. So the first thing we're going to have is a function to push an item. So just create func, call it push, because arrays have append functions, but stacks usually call it push. So just create a push function, and let's give it an item, which is a t value. So now in this push, we're just going to have container.append item. This just adds a new item at the end of container. So now we want to be able to first see what item is on the top. So let's create a function called peek. And this is going to return an optional t. Why an optional t? Because there might be no items in the container. So if you try to peek and return something, it might return an invalid index. So we want to avoid that. So let's just write return nil at the end and put an if statement to see if it's valid. So if container dot size actually dot is empty is equal to false, then just return the last item. So container at container dot count -1, and that is it for our peek function. We now need a pop function. What pop does is it removes the last item. So it can only remove the last item if the container is not empty. So if container is empty is equal to false, just container dot remove item index, container dot count -1. Now we can have an isEmpty function. Let's make it return a Boolean value. Just return container dot isEmpty. So a very useful application for stacks is reversing strings. So if you have a stack that has a string inside, so you put a string inside. So you put H first at the bottom. So hello. You put E if you want to put hello. If you put E on top of that, you put an L on top of that, and you put an L on top of that, and you put an O on top of that. So what peek does is it returns the last item, and what pop does is it removes the last item. So let's say we want to get a reverse string once we pushed it. So we just peek and get this, then remove it. Peek and get this and 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 remove it. So having said that, I'm just going to change my peek, and you'll see why. Let's just have it return item, and we'll make sure in our code that it's the correct item. So let's create a new stack. Let's make it a character stack. and let's initialize it. So let's create a string. And let's put hello inside, which is the example I showed earlier. So now we can iterate through the string. And push the character. So now that we have this inside our stack, we can peek and pop each item. So we could say while test stack dot is empty is equal to false. Then let's create a reversed string type, and let's just make it empty. We can just add the last item. And after we did that, we can pop. Oh, well, I haven't printed it, so just a second. Now reverse strings should print ole.
It's 1 o'clock.
And there it goes. So that's just a small introduction to stacks. And I'm going to talk more about classes in the next video.